So until the mic is prepared, I will just give you a brief introduction into what we are going to talk about. So as you know, the topic is R&D, outsourced versus in-house, what makes a decision. So I assume many of you are interested in what Ukraine has to gain, what it has to offer. And today we have a very, very unique perspective on that. So we're going to discuss pros and cons, and different participants have different opinions. So what I would like to start with is for each of you, please just do a very short 2 minutes introduction, what you are, what you do, what's your background, and what you believe is important to discuss today.
Sure. So, hi everyone, my name is Nicolas Brousse. I come here on behalf of two entities actually, two Mogul and Tech for Ukraine. Tech for Ukraine is a coalition of tech CEO in the Silicon Valley who have been raising $23,000 that have been given to IDCEE. To allow a few startups to join the conference. The other company is To Mogul, who is my day-to-day job. And I work there as a senior director of operation engineering. I have been building the team in Ukraine since a little bit over 2 years, but we have been having people in Ukraine for 5 years. We started from outsourcing to a fully in-house solution.
That's great.
Hi everybody, my name is Aviram Eisenberg from Ignite. I'm in the high-tech and IT industry, as you call it here, for the last 30 years, from my teenage days. I'm from Israel. I've been working in the high-tech industry in Israel. I was working in the army intelligence, in the computer software-related field. And I'm an entrepreneur. I established an IT company here in Ukraine, Ignite, approximately 200 developers, and we're providing services to high-tech companies, mostly in Europe and in Israel.
Hi everyone, my name is Vitaliy Nuzhnyy, and I'm managing director for Laurs Ukraine, which is the largest IT company in the country. And we do all kind of services for our clients. That's automotive, banking. Several millions of cars are driving with the things that we do for their so-called human-machine interface, what they're on computer, as written in Luxoft here in Ukraine, and lots of other stuff. So I think today our joint effort would be to explain to all of the small, medium, and large companies how to enter Ukraine and how to do R&D here.
Well, I think it's an awesome perspective because we have two representatives of the companies outside Ukraine for some reason having chosen work and operate in Ukraine. And we have a Ukrainian IT guru who is used to working with companies. So I think it's very symbolic representative. So my first question maybe for Nicolas and Aviram, please. Why did you decide to end up in Ukraine?
So in our case, it was pretty random. The outsourcing company we started to work with 5 years ago had some offices in San Francisco. And there is a lot of meetup going on in Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley works a lot around networking. And we ended up having our co-founders that meet this person that work at this outsourcing company. And we just started because we are looking for new resources, new talent to help us building our product. The engineering market in the Bay Area is really hard. But we needed to build our product still, so we needed to find engineers. And there was opportunity in Ukraine, so we started with the outsourcing solution. That's really the start and why Ukraine. But after that,
resources, you were looking for resources, you felt that Silicon Valley is way too competitive, resources are...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, number one reason that's...
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Aviram, what about you?
Yeah, so for us it was less accidental. I mean, from the analytical point of view, because it makes sense. Okay, Ukraine has a large talent pool. I come from Israel. The high-tech industry is at any given time has 5,000 open vacancies. It's the same time zone. It's 3 hours flights, 3 flights per day. It's relatively easy. No visas between the countries. Really easy to bring developers to Israel and vice versa. So it makes sense, and the labor arbitrage is of course helping a lot. The less analytical reason just because, you know, in Israel, I think I would not be surprised if the amount of Ukrainian developers working in Israel is pretty much equal to the amount of Ukrainian developers working here. There was a huge immigration from ex-Soviet Union countries, especially from Ukraine, to Israel, and a lot of the guys working in Israel communicate in Russian or Ukrainian with the guys that are working here, so it just makes sense.
Vitaliy, now a question over to you. Like, you work on this side of the border, and apparently you there's still, unfortunately, a border. I hope it disappears sometime soon, but still. So apparently
we do also as well in Ukraine. We do hoping the disappearing border with the EU at least. Yeah.
Well, I do believe in flat world. I don't believe in any borders. I think that, you know, Facebooks and Twitters will level the world, but that's a side comment. So the question to you is, what is your experience of working with external companies?
Well, I think if we go back how all the IT work start here in Ukraine, I think by now it's maybe 18 to 90% of what we see is in IT outsourcing or traditionally working for some other clients. And this is the industry in Ukraine, so this is the reality. And what we need in the country in order to, well, maybe there are different options that we can go. We can go Israeli path and go more R&D. So I would actually welcome companies like a company of Aviram coming into the market, coming and grow the talent. From my side, I think it's very important to say that what large companies, we work with some companies that is much larger than any of IT company here, and they have tens and thousands of workers in IT. Why do they come to Ukraine? First of all, they come for expertise. And expertise is a very key word here, and I think helpful everywhere. Let's say it's not a commonly known fact that, for example, in investment banking, there are about 4,500 engineers among several companies that do work for investment banking IT in Ukraine. So this is like a major hub. It's not commonly known. However, we are already an expertise center here. Another one that I briefly mentioned is in automotive. And we have about 800 engineers in Ukraine who do work for majority of world-class car automakers and tier 1 vendors. If you drive the most modern Mercedes, BMW, Daimler, Porsche, and so on, most probably what you see on your computer is written here, right? Which is cool, right? And we are widely known by the customers for the expertise. It's for many years. They come for us for the most challenging product. And I think why Ukraine is, it's very easy. We can do very complex software. We can do very complex product development for our customers. And at times we are much more helpful. And definitely to add on, like, first we were cheaper, we were more available on the market in the staff talent. Now we have some expertise to offer to markets. So I think.
Okay, again, over to the external guys, right? So there are some key points that Vitaliy raised, and he said, hey, no longer we are really like the cheapest guys in the world, but we have the expertise. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so definitely there are amazing guys here, and they are developing complex system, working in the core of products of global companies. And as Vitaliy said, yeah, the reasoning for coming to Ukraine is changing. If in the past it was because it's the cheapest labor force.
Is it still the cheapest, or
they're not the cheapest. They're
who is
still
cheaper? Just for curiosity. The Chinese are cheaper than
Vietnamese.
And Vietnamese. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to know who we are competing with.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reasoning is changing. It's no longer the labor arbitrage. It's becoming more and more the lack of of experts that you can find in the West, mostly in Europe. Automotive industry in Germany, to continue with Vitaliy's example, is basically consuming, so to speak, all the engineers in Germany. In fact, they're coming to students on their second year, offering them a 90,000 euros check to leave the university and start studying in the internal university inside the automotive companies.
Wow.
So they are not even looking for graduates, they're looking for students. So obviously then they turn around, and Ukraine is one of the destinations that enjoys this this need. Nevertheless, the fact that the labor arbitrage is closing will eventually reach a point where the need for the services coming from Ukraine will reach a limit, okay? And it will no longer cross it, which means that the industry, while it's a service industry, has a limitation. And the next thing is to turn into product companies.
Nicolas, do you agree that the expertise is becoming one of the most important factors when choosing this location?
Clearly, and the best example I have is that we have a technical test we give to a candidate we interview. In US and Ukraine, we do the exact same test.
Yeah.
That's a test that most people who interview in US fails, but always pass in Ukraine. The challenge for us is more the English level and the ability for the person to communicate, because when you have like remote team, the communication is the number one challenge.
Right.
And that's where we have the most struggle, I guess. But technically, we have been able to build a team of really strong talent, smart engineers. And 2 years ago, what we did by moving out from the outsourcing model, because we were not able to unleash this talent by going in-house and creating like a strong team culture, by having our own team with their own like day-to-day life.
Right.
We have been able to create a real engagement by the team and getting like much stronger results. So there is like a lot of things. There is a people, there is a technical talent, and there is this ability to work and build creatively together.
Okay, so basically you guys are saying Ukrainians are relatively inexpensive still, but that opportunity is closing, but the expertise is growing, so there's more reasons to go for that. Still, there are some challenges like communication. Vitaliy, what is the most challenging things that you come across if working with Western partners?
Well, I would say that well, communication definitely is one, but
Communication, you mean like, is it like just the English language, or it's more like mentality and ethics?
It's more on such a scene that I really actually see in the technical crowd is, or R&D cloud, so to say, is the soft skills, right? So how people do communicate. It's not actually the language proficiency,
Right.
but how sociable they are, right? How do they own the issue? How do
Right.
they say that something could not be done?
Right.
How they are realistic in their estimates? And how do they raise an escalation? And sometimes the communication might feel to be a bit more brutal because English is not the native language. I think we are picking up a lot and we knew how to overcome it, but that's like usual things to do. I think what other things you're asking about challengers, I would maybe rephrase it. So what is the major attraction in Ukraine? Is the attitude of the people.
You're a businessman, right? I talk about challenges, you say.
Well, this is a unique scene. I think that's really important to be mentioned. Ukrainians have an extremely good attitude to work. So they actually love to work and love to put themselves to the results they would like to achieve professionally, right? Build their career and so on. It's not, I would say, as we are a global company operating in 20 countries, it's very rare. So we have maybe, as a Ukraine, we have the best attitude to work, and that's important.
Okay, I will overphrase also your overphrase question. So, okay, if you don't like to talk about challenges, I'd ask you a different way. What are the challenges that you have successfully overcome that you had 5 years ago and no longer do?
All right, so English is not a challenge. So
no longer a challenge.
It's
so
not a challenge,
basically you're saying the thesis and message to Western is, hey, we can talk.
It's a trainable skill. You should start it back in school, high school, and so on, and train it all the time. And that's a message to everyone. That's very simple. And I think just by speaking English right now, we do force it heavily, right? So those who don't understand English, they leave. Right. So those who are here, they do understand language. So you see, at the crowd here, so we overcame this complexity by now.
Yeah.
So this one, yeah. I think that another one which is a new challenge is a country risk, so to say execution risk, and I think the one we also overcame. So one of the things is actually to balance through other countries, which is interesting. So if you do some business just only in Ukraine, some of the customers consider it to be risky. So we explained it's not, and we started doing business for them in some other countries as well. So like kind of balancing, so they do the same project in two places, so they feel relaxed. And also there are like some hygiene factors, like doing business continuity planning for them. So what if, then how would we finish their work? So that's an easy task. Right. I think some other thing is actually, if Ukraine was not known, so it was difficult to attract people here. It's no longer difficult. Everybody knows Ukraine is. Current difficulties is that some new investors who haven't been to Ukraine before, they might be a victim of a propaganda, right, of what's going on here. So right. I would actually welcome everyone, all the people who came from other countries, because they actually show us that they would see themselves that it's very calm on the street. You can do business as usual here, and that's really important. So by this conference, we're already doing a lot for the industry. Right?
Aviram, when we were talking before this discussion, you mentioned that you have very carefully considered quite a few environments, including Romania and some other. So what is the competitive set for Ukraine? You know, what the areas that it's actually successful relative to weak relative to other countries?
First of all, there is a good education system, or at least the basis for a good education system from heritage from the Soviet Union days. It has challenges. It's too distributed. It's too outdated. Like, yeah, the physics, mathematics here, extremely well background, but when you see the materials that they're teaching here in the university, they're not up to date, and they're too theoretical. But there is a good basis here, a good education system, very high motivation for achieving high degree, and a very simple and clear economic motivation. I mean, developers, the way I see it, are basically the middle class of Ukraine. That's basically the only way, or the best way, secure way to get out of poverty, to move out from survival mode to living well. Not being rich, just living well.
So basically you are saying that IT as an industry is actually key for Ukrainian prosperity, for middle class?
It's currently the middle class.
Wow.
It's the hope of Ukraine.
Okay.
And there is a big incentive. If I'm a smart guy and I'm just at the point that I finished high school and I consider what to do.
You know, if you allow me, I'll just pause you for just 1 second. It's such a strong statement that I really want support from the crowd. Like, I assume that many of you are Ukrainians. You know, how many of you do think that IT and development is actually, you know, the middle class of Ukraine? Okay, you do have some support. Yeah. That's a striking factor. I mean, I wouldn't know that because apparently I associated Ukraine with so many different things. But please go on.
I mean, what I see here is that approximately, I don't know, 70, 80% of the population are living in survival mode. Survival mode. And you have a really nice layer of really rich people, but the engine of the economy, which is supposed to be middle class, is really missing. And the IT industry, that's basically the middle class that you see here.
Wow.
Doctors, it's not middle class here. It's
so
amazing.
That explains the working attitude that Vitaliy was mentioning about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
there's like no alternatives. You cannot really go into like other areas, right? You're ever stuck with development or not?
Yeah.
Wow.
So just to give an example, minimum salary here is now less than $100. Average salary here in Kiev for developers, I don't know, around $3,000, maybe a little bit less, 2,500. Average salary.
Wow.
This is a really big incentive
it's
to
huge.
go into. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
It is huge.
So if I'm a smart guy and I just finished high school, the most common sense thing to do is to go and study IT.
Okay, so basically you're saying the relative importance of IT and education and knowledge in that segment is way higher than any other country where you could choose this or that, and that's why, you know, we are so careful and so responsible about this job. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Nicolas, you spent a while now working in Ukraine environment, so are you happy?
Oh, I'm definitely happy.
Like, okay, I can see that based on your smile. But if you were to mention, like, you know, a few like things that you think add most to your happiness, what would they be?
So, first, I just have like to comment on the challenge because I do think the communication is definitely a challenge, and it's not necessarily English communication.
It's more mentality and social skills.
There is a lot that goes around that, and it's important because it goes also with the fact that I believe the Ukraine market will benefit a lot if it was seen more, was looking at the problem more globally. I come from a startup that was in the Silicon Valley. With Tech for Ukraine initiative, we tried to associate a bunch of other startups with us. And it was actually much harder than what we thought, even if we knew some company had their team in Ukraine. And some of it was coming from some whatever embarrassment about having outsourcing company, and not necessarily having the pride of having a team building their product in Ukraine. And I think it's one important problem to solve, to create this pride and create like a real market, because it could enable new business and new company in Ukraine. And for me, it's one of my excitement to come here every time. I see like people who are engaged and motivated to build, and I think that's really, there is a future for Ukraine. It just needs to be unleashed.
Right. Since we're getting close to the end of this session, what I was thinking of asking each of you is to think of a single most important factor that would add to improving the attractiveness of Ukraine and R&D for the rest of the world. So maybe Vitaliy, what would be that one single magic bullet would be?
Well, it's interesting that this one single magic bullet has nothing to do with the technical side or
fair enough.
The other side. Yeah, the one is actually government to start economic reforms. I don't know. I don't want to bring
any specific reforms or just reforms.
Just reforms, right?
Like just changing things anyway, like whatever.
No. Like all countries around, they do have support specifically for IT.
Right.
For example, in Romania, when you have finished your high school and you have an IT degree, you have significantly lower tax. In Poland, when you do a creative work in IT, you also have a significantly lower tax.
Okay.
If you work in Belarus in the specific economical zones for IT, technical clusters and so on, you also have much lower tax.
Right.
This is nothing like that specific for IT. So basically, country, a state, or a government haven't yet gave a message to investors. You can come to Ukraine. We support you, right?
Okay.
So we are good at talent. First, we have questionable sustainability in our economics right now, but that's maybe for the better for IT. But we also have very unstable, political environment and security to some degree that we need to tackle upon.
Okay, so basically you're
the thing is, if we need something else, so investors would finally come here. And then no matter what, Outsource or R&D, again, so Outsource is starting to do R&D as we, for example, if it actually depends on you. Right now, it looks like if you are afraid to come and create a legal entity here, you should do from via those companies who are here operating, and they're eager to do it for you. So they're ready to do outsourcing for you, because if you do it, there's a risk, but that's counter wave, right? So you have less competition.
Right. Aviram, what's your receipt?
Well, I actually disagree with Vitaliy. I mean, in theory, he's right. Yeah, the best thing for Ukraine is that the government will start the reforms and will start supporting the IT sector. But let's be realistic. It's not going to happen. This is a country where the ex-president stole how much? Like $40 billion? That's what I heard. $40 billion. If I was in this place, I wouldn't stop stealing. It's a much better business. And I'm laughing about it, but there is a seed of truth there, okay? Once you reach these power places, you're really focused on yourself and less on helping the private sector. Let's be realistic. It's not going to happen.
Soon.
The hope
but
for
it will sometime.
Yeah. How it will happen? The private sector should start acting, start creating those IT incubators, bring the investment into local activities that they do privately. And the good thing about Ukrainians, as the way I see it as a foreigner, they're really practical people. They like to join success. If something is succeeding, then they join. The public sector will follow the private sector. Once the private sector will manage to show that there can be here interesting initiatives. WhatsApp, one of the founders is Ukrainian. Why wasn't it happening in Ukraine? Why did he have to immigrate from Ukraine to US to sell a company to Facebook for $19 billion? This could happen here. And private sector should start, public sector will join.
Nicolas, you happen to be a swing vote now, because we have 1-1. So
Well,
what's your comment?
I'm not sure I know the secret solution or whatever, but I know what is not the solution. It's definitely not the train from Kiev to Kharkiv. I took this one, and that was some challenge. But more seriously, I would agree on all the administrative cut and change that need to happen. I see what we have to go through to build this entity in Ukraine and all the legal and financial pain we went through. I'm pretty sure like some improvement here would help a lot.
Okay, so I think we really have had some really interesting insights, and I really appreciate all of you sharing this stuff. So some key points that at least I learned is it was really striking data for me. I even stopped, the conversation, realizing that, at least a few people think that IT and developers is the middle class. So if I was a politician, well, definitely I would invest into at least taking care of that class, because that's like me, my body, like, my energy, etc., etc. So I was quite happy to hear that, that companies that came here are actually still happy. Because my experience as an investor, that's not always the case, and sometimes you really regret what you do. So we have at least two examples. One Silicon Valley, which apparently has the choice globally. It could go like India, which is the most common destination for outsourcing, as far as I believe. And we have Israel, really known for really taking careful decisions, a lot of considerations, not random, based on waiting for facts. So when you were talking about, hey, I really explored Romania, and I explored this and this and this. And then at the end of the day, I decided Ukraine is the place, so that's very encouraging. So I think it gives really some hope to the crowd, and I really wish the very best for Ukraine to improve. And we're 0-0 on the dot, so thank you everybody, fair TV panel.